Practical Vedanta 1 Part 3. For you must always remember that the one central ideal of Vedanta is this oneness. There are no two in anything, no two lives, nor even two different kinds of life for the two worlds. You will find the Vedas speaking of heavens and things like that at first, but later on, when they come to the highest ideals of their philosophy, they brush away all these things. There is but one life, one world, one existence. Everything is that one. The difference is in degree and not in kind. The difference between our lives is not in kind. The Vedanta entirely denies such ideas as that animals are separate from men and that they were made and created by God to be used for our food. Some people have been kind enough to start an anti vivisection society. I asked a member, "Why do you think, my friend, that it is quite lawful to kill animals for food and not to kill one or two for scientific experiments?" He replied, "Vivisection is most horrible, but animals have been given to us for food. Oneness includes all animals. If man's life is immortal, so also is animals. The difference is only in degree and not in kind. The amoeba and I are the same, and difference is only in degrees, and from the standpoint of the highest life, all these differences vanish. A man may see a great deal of difference between grass and a little tree, but if you mount very high, the grass and the biggest tree will appear much the same. So, from the standpoint of the highest ideal, the lowest animal and the highest man are the same. If you believe there is a God, the animals and the highest creatures must be the same. A God which is partial to his children called men and cruel to his children called brute beasts is worse than a demon. I would rather die 100 times than worship such a God. My whole life would be a fight with such a God. But there is no difference, and those who say there is are irresponsible, heartless people who do not know. Here is the case of the word practical used in a wrong sense. I myself may not be very strict vegetarian, but I understand the ideal. When I eat meat, I know it is wrong. Even if I am bound to eat it under certain circumstances, I know it is cruel. I must not drag my ideal down to the actual and apologize for my weak conduct in this way. The ideal is not to eat flesh, not to injure any being. For all animals are my brothers. If you can think of them as your brothers, you have made a little headway towards the brotherhood of all souls, not to speak of the brotherhood of man. That is child's play. You generally find that this is not very acceptable to many because it teaches them to give up the actual and go higher up to the ideal. But if you bring out a theory which is reconciled with their present conduct, they regard it as entirely practical. There is this strongly conservative tendency in human nature. We do not like to move one step forward. I think of mankind just as I read of persons who become frozen in snow. All such, they say, want to go to sleep, and if you try to drag them up, they say, "Let me sleep. It is so beautiful to sleep in the snow." And they die there in that sleep. So is our nature. That is what we are doing all our lives, getting frozen from the feet upwards and yet wanting to sleep. Therefore, we must struggle towards the ideal. And if a man comes who wants to bring that ideal down to your level and teach a religion that does not carry the highest ideal, do not listen to him. To me, that is an impracticable religion. But if a man teaches a religion which presents the highest ideal, I am ready for him. Beware when anyone is trying to apologize for sense vanities and sense weaknesses. If anyone wants to preach that way to us, poor sense born clods of earth, as we have made ourselves by following that teaching, we shall never progress. I have seen many of these things. I have had some experiences of the world, and my country is the land where religion sections grow like mushrooms. Every year, new section arises. But one thing I have marked, that it is only those that never want to reconcile the man of flesh with the man of truth that makes progress. Wherever there is this false idea of reconciling fleshly vanities with the highest ideal, of dragging down God to the level of man, there comes decay. Man should not be degraded to worldly slavery, but should be raised up to God. At the same time, there is another side to the question. We must not look down with contempt on others. All of us are going towards the same goal. The difference between weakness and strength is of one of the degrees. The difference between virtue and vice is one of degree. The difference between heaven and hell is one of degree. The difference between life and death is one of degree. All differences in this world are of degree and not of kind, because oneness is the secret of everything. All is one, which manifests itself either as thought or life or soul or body, and the difference is only in degree. As such, we have no right to look down with contempt upon those who are not developed exactly in the same degree as we are. Condemn none. If you can stretch out a helping hand, do so. If you cannot, fold your hands, bless your brothers, and let them go their own way. Dragging down and condemning is not the way to work. Never is work accomplished in that way. We spend our energies in condemning others. Criticism and condemnation is a vain way of spending our energies, for in the long run we come to learn that all are seeing the same thing and more or less approaching the same ideal, and that most of our differences are merely differences of expression.